Hello students, this is Mrs. Doulton and welcome back. I truly am hoping that you're following along with the videos and listening to me read the chapters because we will be meeting with M.H. Herlong, Madeline Herlong, Mrs. Herlong in June to discuss the book, ask questions, and present some sort of final project that you'll be completing. So let's review chapter 3. You had the setting. It started off at Little T school, remember? He didn't want to be there. He couldn't keep his mind off of Buddy. Then the setting moved to Bet's office and then back to Little T's home. J-Boy was listed as a new character. And Little T tells his daddy and Grandpa T that he wants Buddy. And Grandpa T carefully listens to Little T. And then Little T makes another plan. He sells his Game Boy and his games just so that he can have money to pay for a dog. You know, the dog food or all the expenses that he would incur to own a dog. And then my favorite quote, Little T says, "I plan on naming him Buddy, I say, because that's what he'll be, my buddy." Okay, let's move into chapter 4 and find out what happens. Does Little T get the dog? Chapter 4. We bring Buddy home that Saturday morning. We bring Buddy home that Saturday morning. Well, that means that Grandpa T was successful in talking to Daddy, and Daddy agreed. When we pull up in the car, there's Mama standing on the front porch with her hands on her hips. She says, "Well, I never." And then she stops. "A three-legged dog," she says. Then she turns around and goes inside the house. Tanya's standing in the door with all her teeth showing in a grin and a ponytail sticking straight up on top of her head. "What's that he's got around his neck?" she says. "That keeps him from licking his cut." "Why would he want to lick his cut?" "He's a dog, you fool. What do you expect?" Oh boy, Little T's losing patience with his sister Tanya. Daddy lifts Buddy out of the car and carries him around the house to the backyard, where we have a shed leaning up against the pecan tree. I fluff up the old army blanket Mama gave me, and Daddy lays Buddy down right on top. Buddy gives a little yip when he hits that blanket and pushes around with his front feet like he wants to get away, but he can't move. "Your mama's going to need you in the house after a while," Daddy says. Buddy's poking his nose around in that blanket, smelling everybody who's ever touched it, and that's a lot of people. I sit myself down right beside him. "It's okay, boy," I tell him. "It's okay now." "You hear me, son?" I look up and there's Daddy with his arms crossed over his chest and his eyebrows twisting down toward his nose. "Yes, sir, I heard you." Daddy walks out, and before he even gets to the house, Buddy's finished smelling the blanket. His ears are standing up tall and he's looking around like he's wondering what might jump out at him from behind all the stuff piled up in that shed. "Ain't nothing in here," I'm saying. "Just old junk we ain't thrown away yet." And Buddy looks at me like he's not so sure. Then he's checking out the shed again. His eyes are flicking back and forth from the lawnmower to the rake to the torn up window screen to the stack of paint cans, to the rotten box of floor tiles. So, do you like it here? I'm saying. Does it suit you? You see, students, Little T is having a conversation with Buddy. He talks to Buddy like Buddy is his pal, like his good friend, from 6th grade. Like Buddy's a person, Buddy's a dog, but you can see that Buddy is more like a friend person to Little T. I'm leaning around trying to see his face in that collar when all of a sudden he turns around to check me out again. I straighten up and he tilts his head to one side. So what do you think? I say. Are you wondering what kind of boy it is that would bring you to a place like this? His mouth is hanging open and the tip of his tongue is rolling out one side. He's going when he breathes. He's looking at my face and my feet. He's looking at my hands to see what I might be holding, but there ain't nothing there. Do you think I look like I can take care of you? He don't say nothing. I reach out and pet his head. He gets still. So what are we going to do with a 3-legged dog? I look up and there's Grandpa T standing in the door with Tanya tippy-toeing around the corner right beside him. Buddy snaps his mouth shut and lays his head down. I rub his side and feel those ribs sticking up like the rails on the train track. This makes me think that Buddy is very skinny. You see, his ribs are sticking up like rails on the train track. So Buddy was probably an abandoned dog or a homeless dog, and he probably hasn't eaten much. You all ain't going to do nothing with him, I say. He's mine. And all of a sudden, Buddy starts whining and turning his head, his neck, every which way, trying to rub that collar off. That ain't good, Grandpa T says. Stop that, Buddy. I put my hand back on his side. Stop that now. Buddy takes his white paw and pushes at the collar a little, then flops his head back down. He rolls his big old eyes up at me, and I think it's just as well he can't talk. He don't act like a happy dog right now, Grandpa T says. He will be, I say. He's just getting used to being here. He's going to find out I'll take such good care of him, he can't help but be happy. Grandpa T's just standing there nodding. He looks at the bowls I found for Buddy. He looks at the great big bag of food stuck in the corner. I see you're going to give it your best shot, he says. Just give me a little time, I say. Can I pet him? Tanya pipes up. I look over at Tanya, standing there wearing those plastic high-heeled shoes with big old pink bows on the toe. He's mine, I say. Can't nobody pet him but me. It looks like little T student is getting a bit possessive with the dog. He's taking ownership of Buddy. He doesn't want to share Buddy with anyone, at least not yet. Tanya's shoulders go all droopy, and her thumb starts heading for her mouth. So I say, oh, all right, you can pet him some. She comes in and squats down beside him with her knees up to her shoulders and her hands on her knees. She sticks out her hand real easy. Buddy, Don't move. Will he bite me? Are you crazy? He's got big teeth. Those are dog teeth. She touches the top of his head with just her fingertips. He lifts up a little, and she snatches back her hand. He sniffs her shoes. Then all of a sudden, he sticks out his tongue and licks one of those bows. Tanya jumps up screaming and hollering. Lucky for her, Grandpa T grabs her before she falls over. Have you lost your mind? I say. Go on now. That's enough. He's tired. So they leave, and I stretch out beside Buddy on the blanket. So students, here little T is alone with Buddy again, and they're stretched out on a blanket, just the two of them. And he talks to Buddy. Don't worry about her, Buddy, I say. You ain't her dog. You're mine. And I ain't going to let her bother you. I promise. He puts his head on my stomach, collar and all, and it feels warm and heavy. It's just you and me now, Buddy, I say. I'm resting my hand on his side and laying there looking up at the tin roof. The sun's coming in through that dirty old window on the front of the shed, and I think someday I ought to clean it up so Buddy can get better light when the door is shut. The birds are singing outside, and I can hear baby Terrell crying in the house. I've got to go inside in a while, I say, but I'll stay as long as I can. He shifts his head a little, but he don't answer. If you want me to, I say, I can tell you a story. And somebody's driving down the street with his music blasting. When the music's past, I lift up my head. Buddy's big old eyes are watching me and waiting. So, Buddy's waiting for little T to tell him a story. Buddy is ready to have a friend and to accept little T as his friend. So here, there's this little break that you see here. So now the author is just jumping with time in a setting. It ain't hard to take care of Buddy. He lays there waiting for me in the morning when I come in to fill his bowl and pour his water. His chin is resting on his paws. His eyes are half closed and barely moving back and forth while he watches me fluff up his blanket and clean up his business. Now, once again, little T's going to have a conversation with Buddy. Are you doing okay this morning? I say. Do you like that collar any better? Is your leg hurting you? Are you tired of laying there yet? I rub him on his head and I lean down and put my nose between his ears and I smell that old leaf smell and the plastic collar too. He lifts up his tongue and licks my chin, and the spot stays cool for a long time. So now Buddy is showing some affection to little T by licking his chin. Buddy knows that it's little T who's feeding him and giving him water and visiting him in the shed outside in the backyard every day. On Monday, all day long at school, the teacher is going on and on about something, but I don't know what it is because all I'm thinking about is Buddy. At the end of the day, we have an assembly where girls do flips and cheers. And then we all stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance and Finally, the day's over. I'm throwing my book bag over my shoulder in the hallway, and there's J-Boy, watching one of those flip girls walking out the door, carrying a gym bag and a sweater. I pull up beside him, and out the door we go. I got the dog, I say. I named him Buddy. He don't answer. J-Boy's not answering, little T. I'm going to paint his name on his bowls. I'm going to use that model paint from those airplanes I made at Christmas. I'm going to. J-Boy is still looking at that girl. If you keep staring at her, you're going to burn a hole in her backside. J-Boy looks at me like he's about to say something, but he don't. The girl turns the corner, so I figure maybe now he can think. Are you learning those games, I say? What games? Those Game Boy games. See, little T sold the Game Boy to J-Boy and also all the games that went with the Game Boy. So I wonder why J-Boy doesn't know what he's talking about. We're standing in line to get on the bus. All the kids are pushing and shoving and can't nobody get on. You'd think they don't even want to get home from school. Finally, the driver straightens them out and we start moving. J-Boy's looking the other way again. J-Boy, I say, and he turns around. Why you ain't been by the house in so long? He shrugs. We're finally climbing up the bus steps. Come by and see my dog, I say, and take a front seat as usual. Maybe, J-Boy says, and passes on down the aisle. He high-fives two brothers from the high school and sits down behind them. I turn around and look out the window. The stores and churches and houses roll on by. The oak trees are spreading out their shady arms. On the corner, a little kid is sucking a snowball and holding his mama's hand. So a snowball is not a snowball that you would think, like how outside when it snows in New York, we have snow and we make a snowball. No, a snowball is like an ice cone. You know, it's like frozen ice with syrup drizzled over it. I'm going to show you pictures of pralines and snowballs and Buddy Shed and other things in a Google slide. But I ain't thinking about them. I've decided I ain't waiting anymore for Jamila to write me. I've decided I'm going to write her first. In my mind, I'm already writing that letter. Dear Jamila, my letter will say, guess what? I have a dog. Now remember, Jamila was little T's really good friend, and she had to move to Chicago up north because her aunt got a better job. And Jamila was the one who always drew a picture of a dog for little T. And now little T, he just can't wait. He's bursting. He wants to tell someone the good news that he has a dog. So he's going to write Jamila a letter. That very afternoon, I write that letter and Mama sticks it in the mail. Then I fix up 2 bowls with Buddy's name on them. Buddy lays there the whole time watching me paint. Every once in a while, his tail flicks and he grunts and moves around like he wants to get up. When the bowls are done, I try to help him. I get my hands up under him. I lift and he flops right back down. I say, it's okay, Buddy. You just ain't strong enough yet. Then I lay down beside him and he puts his head on my stomach and I tell him stories. He listens to every word. And Mama goes hollering for me, and I tell Buddy, now where does she think I'm at? She knows I'm right here with you. You see, Mama wants Little T back in the house. She's probably thinking that Little T's spending too much time in the shed with Buddy. Okay? And remember, Buddy is recovering. He's healing because one of his legs got amputated. So he's not moving too much yet. The next day, I feel like I can't hardly sit there in school all day long. After about 1,000 years, I finally get home. Mama says I have to bag 3 dozen pralines, and I might as well get it done before I start messing with the dog. When I get out to the shed, Buddy's laying there waiting for me, just like I knew he would be. We talk until dark. Then Mama makes me come inside to eat. But that's okay, because Buddy's sound asleep. The next day, I tried to listen to the teacher, but it's hard. I'm about to fall asleep. Eventually, the teacher says, tomorrow we're going to start studying New Orleans. He says, we're lucky to live here, and it's the best city in the world. I'm thinking, that's all just fine. But when is this day ever going to end? Then all of a sudden the bell rings and I want to jump out of my seat singing hallelujah. But I don't do that. I just hop on the bus and head on home. Daddy gives me a piece of wood from behind the shed. So he's got a piece of wood. And Mama says, I can use the leftover paint from when we did the kitchen last summer. It's yellow and white. And I think that's just about right. I saw that board off straight on both ends. And I paint the whole thing white. Then I paint Buddy's house with the yellow, real careful, in big square letters. It don't show up as good as I want, so I take the blue from the model paints and I outline the letters. It looks perfect. Grandpa T helps me nail it up over the door to the shed. And we stand back and take a look. It all worked out, I say. What worked out? My plan. I got a dog. Yep. Grandpa T nods his head. Then he slaps me on the back and starts tee-hee-heeing. So, I guess you must be about the happiest boy in the world, he says. Because there's one thing I can tell you for sure. A dog is way better than a chicken. Okay, so that was chapter 4. Let's look at the notes. So the setting starts, at Little T's home, then Little T's school, and then back, at Little T's home. The plot. Little T gets Buddy. Yes, we know that from the first sentence in the chapter. And Little T learns how to take care of Buddy with Grandpa T's moral support. So Grandpa T's like supporting him, right? Helping him out. Tanya, Little T's sister, tries to get involved with the care of Buddy. J-Boy, he's distant, very distracted at school. He interacts with the older kids, the high school students. Little T writes Jamila a letter, and Mama mails it. And finally, Little T says, Little T's plan worked, page 37. It all worked out, I say. What worked out? My plan. I got a dog. And that's the conflict resolution. He gets the dog, and that's the quote. So stop and jot. After getting Buddy, little T had a difficult time focusing in school. Describe a time when you couldn't focus in school because your mind was on something else. So I need you to describe it. Just don't say, oh, I was thinking of my basketball game, or I was thinking about what we were going to eat for dinner. I want you to really think about a time when you had difficulty focusing on school and give me some details. Okay. Explaining why.